I'm going to load up the intro, and then we're going to get into the cast, okay?
Do it. Oh, this you crazy mother.
All right. I didn't have that sized right, but whatever. There are going to be some kinks along the way. And this is episode 2, so of course we're going to have a few kinks. But I am happy that we're actually able to get this going again. I am UB. You guys probably know me from the various Warcraft podcasts. And if you guys are longtime listeners, I used to do a Hearthstone podcast with Dahlia named Hearth Attack. This is Hearthstoned, which, take from that what you will. If we get Rasta on here, it'll have a whole new meaning.
Oh my goodness.
But I am joined by the same two people, of which we're here for the first cast. So, Raz, say hello.
Hey y'all, it's Rise here. Good to be back here. Good to see the start of a new season, even though I couldn't catch what I needed last season by just this much. Oh, it kills me.
We can get into that again if you want, because that really,
no,
it's like, talk about a carrot at the end of the stick, you poor soul.
Yeah, it was.
And Rise and I are joined by...
my name is Original. I got ranked 6th last season. Today. I don't know. I'll try hard this season. I might make Legend. I hope for it.
All right. Well, I feel like you're in contention with Rise for the best intro of all time. So where do you guys really want to start here? Because I feel like you guys have been playing much more Hearthstone than I over the past week, and really, I guess, since the expansion dropped, which was last week. So Rise, do you want to kick this off on what you've been noticing so far?
I'm noticing so far, we were talking about this a little bit before the cast, and I'd love to dive into this a little more, that people are experimenting with all the new cards, and there's a difference between the decks that are running around that are starting to develop some new synergies, and the gimmick decks that are popped up, where it's like, if I just get this right combo, if I just get this right card draw, the whole board's going to blow up, it's going to be awesome, which is true, but it doesn't give the deck any kind of longevity.
And what do you want to say, like, what some of those are?
There's, let's see, some of the...
I'll go off on that. I think
go for it.
There's a version of Demon Lock / Handlock which uses the new card Felsteed, where when it dies you resummon the card, and it uses Kel'Thuzad, Faceless Manipulator, cards like that to its advantage to try and constantly just fill your board out with demons, good demons, and Felsteeds, and just never be able to kill your opponent, to never be able to kill them, and just paper cut them down. And another good example is probably Pirate Rogue, because it's pirates, pretty gimmicky, just in general.
I haven't seen that yet. That's awesome.
It's really cool, though. It's probably my favorite gimmick deck. And I think I'm going to clump in Totem Shaman to this one, since we're talking about it. Since if you don't get the correct card draw, it can be pretty bad for you. But I think that's the main decks.
So I have a question for you. When the new expansion drops, you got to buy some packs, and I bought some packs, and I got the gold new Rogue Legendary. It's a pirate one. I think it's like for every pirate you have, or every pirate that's died or whatever, it costs one less. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, sweet. I'm never going to play a rogue. When's pirates going to be viable? I mean, it's like Rise, you're saying, like, cool gimmick deck, and you kind of followed up with that. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to use that to make some other cool shit. Am I going to regret that decision later?
No, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure that the Pirate Rogue deck doesn't even use that card.
Oh, jeez. That night.
Here's the thing with disenchanting cards. This is one of those things where, I mean, if you're hurting for dust, if you're hurting for getting the cards that you need, then you look for options like that. But at some point, there is a chance. I mean, not a huge chance, but I'm thinking like Leroy Jenkins, where it's like, Leroy Jenkins got a nerf, people like, okay, that's it, we're dusting that thing. We're getting some cash out of that. We're getting some dust out of that. We're going to use that to make some other stuff. It's still, like, I wouldn't put it in every deck ever. I mean, Leroy Jenkins is a very particular use, but most cards have very particular uses. And there's just a time when you're like, is it really worth do you really need something so bad right now that it's worth dusting something that maybe it'll be worth having later on?
Right.
I don't know. I've gotten obscenely lucky, I guess, with gold legendaries. I don't get a whole lot of legendaries. It's like half of them I get are gold. So it's just fed me forever. So I just get excited and disenchant
That is a
those.
hard choice. I mean, that's a guaranteed, like, worst case scenario, that, well, I've cashed in my gold legendary for the equivalent of a regular legendary.
Yes, that's exact. Or like 4 epics or however you want to look at it. I mean, it's
right.
It seems
Yeah.
like from the stake of, us playing healers in Warcraft, it seems very mana efficient.
There it is. that is a good argument you could make, I guess, in that case, where it's like, you know what, if the shiny doesn't matter that much, then trashing the goldens can be worthwhile.
But this also brings me to another thing that when we're talking, this is something else we were talking about in that little gap while we had that hilarious Muffles video going. That's that I disenchanted a Norse Dormu. Christ, I don't even know how long ago. And you guys brought up a very interesting bug with Norse Dormu and the joust mechanic. Original, would you like to perhaps explain that to our listeners?
So basically, there's a bug going on with Norse Dormu. It was done before, but the joust mechanic is so long
It's so slow. That's the key.
that using Norse Dormu's effect, if you play Norse Dormu, joust, and then immediately end your turn, the joust mechanic is so long that combined with the Norse Dormu effect, that will immediately end your opponent's turn. That your opponent has, I think, 2 or 3 seconds, compared to 15 seconds, which it would normally be with Norse Dormu.
So they need to be like one of those micromanaging StarCraft players to then
It's
be
not
able
possible.
to
It's
play
actually
their
not
cards afterwards.
The only time to do this is like turn 10, or turn 9, turn 10. So you're going to play multiple cards. It's not possible. So we haven't actually heard from anything from Blizzard about it, but hopefully they'll fix.
This is another variation on an old Norse Domu exploit, where basically, I'm not sure what I would call it. I mean, it's a problem where basically you can play the deck in such a way where, again, it goes back in the category of gimmick deck. You have to have things aligned the right way. You need your Norse Dormer. You need to live until turn 10. You need to be able to pull off the timing just right. But if you do it, basically your opponent can never play again until they die. You just keep going, and just like their turn runs out, you play again. Their turn runs out, you play again. There's no way out of that. And this has been like, this is a long-standing issue, and it just has to deal with the way that animation. The single problem here is if there are if there's animation left on your turn, it goes into your opponent's turn. Like, you fix that. Don't start your opponent's turn until the animations are all done. You're good to go. But that's not where we're at right now. So Norse Dormu can be an ass.
Well, that's weird too, because like just playing, like the whole idea of playing a card game to me when Hearthstone just got released, it's all right. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna flip a card, and maybe that card's gonna be better, and I'm gonna be like, "Hey, card, you go attack that card, sweet." But in a weird way, the fact that you have that fireball animation or that frostbolt animation, or if you hit someone with the 8+, it has that big wow and that big boom going with it. It adds a little bit to it that makes it a little more interesting. So I was like, yes, that mechanic that you have on that card is clever, but also the thing that kind of makes people interested, it's kind of working against you having that card in there, especially when you couple that with a brand new mechanic, which I actually happen to really like. It makes your whole turn just go kaput.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those animations are important. At least they are to me. I mean, like, they're just seeing some of those things happen over and over again. It doesn't get old for me. It doesn't get old to see the knifer go crazy town when all the imps go blowing up and knives go flying everywhere. That just never gets old.
Oh, geez. Speaking of the knife juggler and such, I was watching a video. This dude, I was talking with Dak about this earlier. Disguised Toast. He had a video up, and it was a knife juggler against a Grim Patron deck. And the knife juggler, I don't remember exactly what card. I wish I did. But the juggler just kept hitting the patrons and inadvertently spurned a full board of them against him. And I was like, you poor bitch. Oh, God.
I think I want to move this to a more serious note. So a couple days ago, it was the end of ATLC, which was a really big tournament. For
What is ATLC for those that don't know?
Oh man, I think it's called like, oh my gosh, Archon Team League Championships.
Okay.
And the teams were Cloud9, Value Town, Team Archon, Tempo Storm, Force and Boys, Nihilum, Team Liquid, and Team Celestial.
Mm-hmm.
Big names, like we're talking Force and Chalky, Ostaka, Sabs, Xiao, Trump. You know, like good
like the who's who
players.
of Hearthstone, basically.
Yeah, and the decks. There, I think. Hold on, 1, 2. So basically, the format was there's 3 people on a team, and each person has 2 decks they can play, or well, 2 heroes. I think you could change up the decks on every single day, and and to win, you needed every single deck to win, like in the series. You know, it was a best of 11 pretty much every game,
Jeez.
and it was really fun. I actually enjoyed watching it quite a bit. And what I thought was pretty funny was, I think, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was 5 aggro Pally decks using the secrets in competitive play. It was the only decks which pretty much were identical, and they were played in pretty much every single team who got high rated. So pretty much in the semifinals, all 4 teams had aggro Pally. Or Secret Pally.
Secret Pally.
Yeah.
And this is something I was hoping that you guys would have experienced this as well, because it's something that I saw. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? And what's the name of that card?
Mysterious Challenger.
Mysterious Challenger.
Okay, yeah. So that's played. And for those of you guys that don't know, it basically unloads every secret a Pally has simultaneously.
Yep.
And I thought a very...
Not unloads it.
What's that?
It loads it, not unloads it.
Yes, okay, yes. Goddamn semantics, but yes, you're correct.
No. It's a real
it loads them up for the unload. So it's like...
and it... go ahead.
The first time I saw it, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm used to seeing maybe, like, you have the 2-1 secret or, like, a few others. But, like, nothing too significant as far as secrets go Pally-wise. And then I think it was you that mentioned it earlier, Original, where we're kind of used to seeing the hunters. You're running a freezing trap or explosive trap, right? If you're playing the hunter, you'll have something ranging from, I don't know, ice block to, I guess counterspell wasn't used that much, but let's just run the spectrum. Yeah. But it's at least you're aware that these options were going to probably be in most decks you see. The first time I saw that Pally, I'm like, all right, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
And to what I said to you guys earlier, it's like, okay, I just went and did an attack. I'm pretty sure I could have made a hot pocket, sat down, waited for it to cool off, ate half of it, and been like, wait, it's still my turn? What the hell's going on right now? That robe's just about burned out, and it's just waiting for those secrets to run through. God forbid, I wish I would have had Norse Dormu up there. What would have happened then?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No,
the one thing I think about Secret Pally is that once you play the Mysterious Challenger, once you have the secrets out on the field, they're pretty much going to play. There's only so many secrets. They're pretty much going to play the same way. You know you're going to attack somebody. It's going to get diverted by the 2-1 guy that appears. He's going to die. It's going to give somebody else a buff. The guy's going to reappear with 1 health again. It's going to wipe out half the secrets there. And it's one of those things where it's strong, but once you know you're hitting, I can't remember if it's turn 5 or turn 6, the Mysterious Challenger, how much mana you need for that?
Turn 6, I think.
The turn 6 is the big turn 6. That's you can almost play for that. As soon as you see a Secret Keeper come out on turn 1 or turn 2, you know, like, all right, I need a Silence or a BGH or whatever. I need to prep that for turn 6, turn 7, something like that.
So, I guess you kind of gave a roundabout answer to this, but is there anything, say, in the first 3 or 4 turns that will allow you to determine this is a deck you're going to play? Because if we want to be super obvious about something, say you're playing the very fashionable mech mage, you know what that is by like turn 2.
Right.
If you're playing a face hunter, you know what that is instantly. So are there any kind of signs for people to look for while playing that Pally deck? So maybe they can save a card or two to anticipate and then deal with the incoming onslaught of their secrets?
So basically, I think, I don't know the actual name, but I'm just going to call it the Get Down card. And
I don't know what it's called, but it should be renamed the Get Down card.
Get down! I love that.
But
speaking of things that never get old.
Yeah. And basically what it does is whenever you attack a minion, the enemy minion or face, like basically whenever you attack with a minion, or yourself, basically whenever you attack, it'll redirect it to a 2/1. And that's the main one you have to watch out for.
With that, Shades just popped in. Is that Noble Sacrifice? Are you talking
yes, it
about?
is. Noble Sacrifice.
Noble
That's it.
Yeah, that is the card. And that's pretty important. Because, you don't want to have a low minion card to run in, or you want a hero power, or you want to use yourself to run it in, you know? Just make sure you actually just get it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty obvious, but just make sure. And then once a minion dies, it's comboed with another card. I need to get this deck list off real quick, since I don't want to just say a card which this happens.
All right. Well, while you're looking for that deck list, Rise, you want to fill some things in?
I think to make the sounds that come with that, if you can do the Noble Sacrifice sound and then do the other sounds, we should just do it all deck list by the comments that they make.
I need to get a soundboard so it can be like when I was talking about the Grim Patron fiasco. Be like, put an apple on your head. Toosh, 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 toosh.
It's called
Everybody get in here!
Yeah.
Oh.
You were saying original.
Dang. I still need to get it up.
I'm not sure he knows what he's saying.
One of the things I think that more so than most other decks, there are some signature decks where you see the Face Hunter, you'll see especially aggro decks would usually give themselves away right off the bat just because they're looking for short, fast minions to get on the board pretty quickly. More so than any of those other decks, there's some giveaway cards on a Paladin deck just to see any secrets come out. I have never seen. I carry a Kezans in a lot of my decks, and just because there are a lot of mages and hunters around, where it's just worthwhile. It's not great to have a 4/3 card that can't get a secret against other decks, but it's worthwhile enough to.
It's like what do you call that? A tech card, so to speak.
I think so. I was just that's
like a mind control, or just maybe even a big game hunter. Like you keep one in your deck because you know this is quite possibly going to occur. So let's have something that if it pops up, it could turn the tide.
Exactly. It's possible, and it's such a big game changer that if you do pull it off, that it's almost worth the risk of not facing all the other classes by having it in there. So with that said, I would, when you know you're facing a warrior or you're facing a warlock, you look for a place to dump Kezans because you're like, okay, well, I've got board control and I need to get this card out of my hand and put make it somewhat useful. Otherwise, it's just going to rot in my hand. So I'll pop out a Kezans. I used to do that with Pally decks because even though Paladins had secrets, nobody played them. So I knew that the Kezans was a waste for a Pally deck. And now that's not the case at all.
Now you're like, oh my god, I'm so happy I have this.
So I found the deck list here.
Okay.
And they combo Noble Sacrifice with Avenge, where when one of your minions dies, it gives a random friendly minion +3/+2.
Yeah. That's the thing. So it ends up not only diverting the attack that you meant to do, but actually the death of the Noble Sacrifice then triggers the other secret, which buffs up somebody else.
Yeah. And some giveaways for this, Divine Shield cards. Just to, obviously, I don't think it's a dead giveaway, but shielded mini bot. Things which will get them board control until they can combo this. I don't think it's run frequently, but Secret Keeper. It's literally whenever a secret is played, game +1/+1, you know it's going to be a secret.
Well, actually, it's funny you use Secret Keeper because it was the first card that I saw a Pally drop in the game that's in question.
Yeah.
and I'm playing on my priest deck, and I'm like, okay, this motherfucker dropped this for a reason. You don't just have this in your deck.
Right?
So I go ahead and I Shadow Word Pain that, and then, a few turns later, I'm like, oh, I'm glad that guy's gone.
And I think the biggest dead giveaway that is going to be a Secret Paladin is if he's playing Paladin.
Right? Exactly.
Basically, every single Paladin right now is Secret Paladin.
Yeah.
And if he's playing something besides Secret Paladin, you're probably going to win.
Well, let me ask you this then, Original, because we were talking before, and there were 2 cards put in. The one where it's... Actually, I should say 3. 1, summon a Ramen Pally card. 1, summon a Silverhand Recruit. And then the Pally-specific card, Inspire Summon a Murloc. So have you guys seen any decks that take advantage of these?
Yeah, it's played in Secret Paladin.
They're all in the Secret Pally deck?
It's too strong to pass up on. It's basically just the best combo you can possibly get. Since it's... You can't have a reliable deck based off secrets,
Mm-hmm.
It can't just be reliable secret. A good example is Freeze Mage. It relies a lot on secrets, but does it need secrets to win? Heck no. It has a lot of strong cards which you can play.
No, it relies on annoying the other person into submission to just give you the middle finger and then they go.
But you know what? But you have to play cards like a good example is Knife Juggler. Plays a lot of Death Rattles. Knife Juggler plus Muster for Battle. Just get a lot of stuff there. Consecrate can stall out, and then you play the Murloc card. There's obviously lots of variations, and you can play whatever you want, but you generally play the Murloc card as a higher mana cost card, and it allows you to maintain roller control. You can get lucky, get the legendary Murloc, and if it stays up for longer...
To me. Oh my god.
It's just a really...
Oh, murky?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's any Murloc card, and sometimes you get nothing like, oh, you drew a 2-1, that's out of here, and sometimes old Murky shows up and you're like, really?
And you got a full board, and it's like, oh, shit.
So there's the key with the Secret Lock, is as soon as you know you're playing... It's called a Secret... Secret Lock. Secret Pally, thank you. If you're playing a Secret Pally, they're calling it a Secret Pally because it's just so stunning that there's all the secrets in there. It's an aggro Pally. Yeah. So you handle it like an aggro deck, where you got to keep that board clear, whatever it takes to keep that board contained, because once it grows out of control, it's not coming back.
Yeah, and that's where I think it comes in with. I think it's just straight up better than Totem Shaman, where Totem Shaman is pretty much all a gimmick. You basically just need the totems, and that's why I don't think it was played in the tournament, and that's why there were so many mech shamans using some of the new TGT cards introduced. It's not like aggro Pally, which uses a lot of secrets. Its gimmick is secret, but doesn't need the secrets to win. No, it's basically just an aggro deck. Whereas Totem Shaman, it relies on totems to win.
Well, this is kind of a weird thing, because when we were talking last week, it's... Shemi is now OP. Totem Shaman is going to take over the world.
I think it's mainly just because there's...
It was like just something brand new?
Of Secret Pally, and we had no idea. Like, it was completely out of the picture, and it destroys Shaman, which is the main thing.
All right, well, let's move on then. We spent a decent amount of time, I would say, on Pally, and I want to switch to my least favorite class in this game. Do either of you want to take a stab at what that is?
Okay, so Hunters. Let's talk about Hunters. Actually, Rise, you should talk about Hunters. You have a golden Hunter.
I'm quite like how someone pointed that out a couple days ago. It's like, oh, Golden Hunter, you're clearly an ass. Which is not untrue.
You said it, not me.
There's, what's the main thing to know, I guess, about Hunters? There's... let me step back a second and say that the meta, watching the meta change as fast as it has, where 1 week it's like, bam, Totem Chamois, bam, Secret Pally 2 days later, bam, it's like, especially to see dragon priests appear and then disappear so quickly, and I would expect reappear later on down as these things all start to settle in. With Hunters and with other decks, and I noticed this with my Warlock too, they've retained some of their strength, but they really haven't changed that much from what I've seen. And this is my limited exposure being in the ranks that I am, so we're not talking like super high-end gaming by any means, but still, it's like the face hunters I've seen, they're still running the same Nax cards. They're still looking for the same charges in there. There's a couple of different changes, like we'll throw a bear trap in there to piss you off this time, as opposed to using just the freeze trap or the explosive trap. But the main thing I've seen with hunters is, for a while earlier in the season, before the expansion came out, there was more of a lean towards using sort of a hybrid mid-range aggro hunter, where aggro hunters, the face hunters, just weren't as effective as they used to be because everybody was expecting them for good reason. So they stuck in a couple of mid-range cards that are ridiculously powerful.
Savannah Highmane, just strong cards.
I mean, oh my gosh, such a strong card.
That card is so amazing. All right, continue. I'm sorry.
No, it is. It's one of the strongest cards in the game. So being able to do this kind of hybrid aggro towards a shift towards mid-range hunter is something that really grew over the middle of the season, and I think TGT just basically helped boost that a little more. You're going to see more of these more options there for mid-range. What's the card that if you have a beast and you put the card down, you get to like another free beast?
Oh yeah, a Ram Wrangler.
Yeah, the Ram Wrangler.
I was just about to talk about that. So there's basically no face hunter anymore in high rated. I'm purely talking like rank 1 legend here, like high rated. But there's a really popular deck, and there's not really a name. I'm gonna call it just TGT mid range hunter, but it's basically a beast hunter. I actually thought it'd be good, and I was right. They just needed to find a good deck, and it's a really interesting deck. Actually, okay. I can send you to the deck list, but it's basically.
Well, explain it. The deck list sending to us doesn't do much. Explain it to the people listening.
So basically, it uses Freezing Trap and Snake Trap, and nothing else, trap-wise. And it doesn't use
Trap.
And it uses Mad Scientist as well. And it's sort of like, I don't know how long this will last, but it psychs players out a lot on how to play against it, since they're not sure if it's an aggro or not, because it basically uses the same deck cards in the beginning. Haunted Creeper, Mad Scientist.
It looks the same in the beginning.
But it doesn't use sort of the core cards we know as Aggro Hunter.
This might be the first Hunter deck I like, just because it's
Abusive
fucking with
Sergeant,
people's heads.
Leper Gnome, Worgen Infiltrator, and it's not using cards like Explosive Trap or a Bear Trap, because you don't want them hitting your face, basically. And then it uses Web Spinner, like you could still think it's an aggro deck, and then King's Elk to maintain card draw, although it's a joust mechanic. And then it uses Ram Wrangler to great effect, and then it uses Savannah Highmane, just the best card in the game, Hound Master. And then you get some weird cards like Stampeding Kodo and Stranglethorn Tiger. Like, whoever thought you'd see Stranglethorn
Tiger, right?
in a competitive deck. But you can see how this would be very strong. You're able to just maintain, not an aggro, but a very strong start, because you have like aggro-ish cards in your deck. And then once it gets to turn 3, turn 4, you're able to just ramp up insanely hard and just turn into like 15 combo cards. And because you have Ram Wrangler in your deck, you're going to be having like Savannah Highmanes and Stranglethorn Tigers on turn like 5, So it's very, very strong.
That's what we're seeing with. I think there's those kinds of adjustments, and I wanted to circle around with that with the Pally Secrets deck. There's opportunities right now for people to play decks where they look like they're going to go one way, but they actually that people are so used to like, oh, it's an aggro hunter. I'm going to be able to. This is what I got to do. I got to get my silence ready. I got to get my defenses up. No, just kidding. It's not an aggro hunter. Yeah. Turn 5, things get ugly, or I guess turn 6. But that's the thing where being able to take advantage of that now is a short-term opportunity. If someone can come up with a Pally deck that makes worthwhile use of a couple secrets, but is actually not really a secret Pally deck, I think they'll find themselves in good shape on the ladder for a few days.
And I think that's where it comes down to decks which have just become the best decks right now. The very, very, unarguably the best decks are just solid decks, which like no matter what happens, it's going to be a good deck. And before there were like some some exceptions, but now it's just really, really, really just anything you draw is going to be good. Like we're seeing Control Warriors, we're seeing Dragon Priest, Dragon Warrior.
This is something I wanted to get into.
Aggro Pally, and we have this new Hunter deck, which it basically destroys the RNG that we had with normal Face Hunter.
All right, you brought up Dragon Pally. It's actually, or not Dragon Pally, Dragon Priest. It's something that I want to talk about. Original, do you remember, this was months and months ago, you're like, I have the best Warlock deck of all time. I am going to...
I was going to... and Handlock, too. Handlock is strong.
Yeah, Handlock. But it was, and then I played the Dragon Priest deck that I had made up.
Yeah.
And it did not work out that well for you.
No, it didn't.
So I was looking through kind of the new cards, and I saw the one. It was like Worm Rest Accord, I think it is. It was like, oh, if you have a dragon, you get taunt and +1 attack. So I took that as Blizzard saying, I think Priest should probably play a dragon deck.
One exception is that's actually the weakest class with the dragon cards. Like, a Dragon Warrior and some other dragon cards are just much better. But I think it shows that it is. I mean, Priest has always been one of those classes where they've never been the best deck.
But like, I guess I should rephrase that again if you would have let me finish. I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Okay. I think all dragon decks are really strong right now. Dragon Priest, Dragon Pally, Dragon Warrior, all very top tier. But I'd say that Dragon Warrior is by far the best.
I think I see more Dragon Priest than anything else, and I struggle against that deck a lot with my lock. I play a kind of
I cannot wait for our games later, though.
Oh my god, that's a great example of a deck that's not a gimmick deck, where there's so many cards that synergize with so many other cards. And I would imagine Dragon Warrior works the same way, which is you'd think I'd see more of those.
That's why I think Dragon Warrior is better, just because of the removal mechanic.
Well, since you're talking about Dragon Warrior, take a moment to explain exactly what that is.
It's basically Control Warrior with dragons. I don't know how else to say. You keep the removal, you have your weapons, you have amazing armor, you have shield block, you have shield maidens, you have shield slam and execute, armor smiths, but you have Ysera, you have Alex Straza, like normal cards, but you're able to combo it just so much better, and you have better early game because you have the Alex Straza. Oh, what's it called?
Can we spin off
Alex
this?
Straza's champion, where if you're holding a dragon game +1 attack charge.
Right. I think that the big difference between the two is that a warrior deck, because it's more aggressive, the object is to control the game, to keep the other side of the board clear, whereas the priest is looking to do so by staying alive and keeping the minions alive.
And that's actually exactly what I noticed. Is like it was one of the best runs I think I've ever had in my history of Hearthstone, but each game took like 40 fucking minutes.
Right?
I mean, they took a long time. I mean, we'd go into multiple, you're drawing the Grim Spectre of Death like 6 times each, but I had just a card down. So I'm like,
I think I'm going to be honest. I think I could have gone Legend if I just played a couple weeks before, because I had like an 80% win rate with Control Warrior. Games were on average 20 to 25 minutes.
They're long games.
Oh man, it was awful. Wait, I want to spin this since we're talking about Warrior, and then I guess I just brought off the Justicar. I would like your guys' thoughts on this, and maybe I'm completely off base here, but I know Control Warrior used to be a thing. I know it got replaced by the Grim Patron and his evil stylings.
Control Warrior's definitely the strongest.
So what happens now if you want to do the Control Warrior thing, but then you bring the Justicar out, and if you play it as a priest, you get 4 health. If you play it as a warrior, you get 4 armor.
Yeah, that's the deck I've been running, and in my opinion, it's just insanely strong. Though it's only susceptible to, unfortunately, it's very weak to Secret Pally. And that's what's
Go figure.
played the most on ladder, which is very unfortunate. But it's, in general, just an insanely strong deck. If you're able to get ahead just by one turn, you've practically won the game. You're able to stack up armor so quickly. You have amazing removal. The introduction of Bash and Avarian Rin allows you to just go from 0 to 100 real quick and just completely kill someone. Like I've gone
like a Ferrari Testarossa. You're just
like it's actually better combos than Grim Patron, even though it's very, very RNG based. But for example, I've gone in. I've had a 1-mana Death Spite, and I've played Varian Rin. I got Ragnaros, Grimosh, and Dr. Boom.
Oh my
what?
God.
And they had no minions on the field.
Wait, hold on. I know this sounds kind of silly, but there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this that don't know exactly the hell that you unleashed. So just take 5 seconds and summarize that.
Varian Rin is a 10-mana card cost, which was released to TGT. And very, very strong, and very, very strong, actually. Just
I don't really know what else to say. It's strong.
you draw 3 cards, but if it's a minion, no matter what they cost, you put it directly in the field. And I had a Deathspite at 1 cost, and Deathspite is when it breaks, you deal 1 damage to all minions. My Varian Rin played Ragnaros, where at the end of your turn it deals 8 damage to a random enemy, and Grimosh is a charge enrage +6 attack, so it's pretty much 10 damage. And Dr. Boom, Dr. Balanced, summons 2/1 Boom bots. So basically what happened was Deathspite, and there's no minions on the field. Grimosh enrages 10 damage, 14 damage. Both
Plus
boom bots, both boom bots hit for 4, and then Ragnaros hit his face.
That's just wrong. That's so wrong.
So it's really, really fun.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I've seen the opposite though, where someone played that on me, and I just saw 3 cards draw directly into his hand.
That's what. But it's also, I also want to talk about this. Death Lord, 2/8, summons a random minion to the field, and actually just destroys lots of decks now.
Wait, I don't want to say it just destroys them now.
Yeah.
I would like to say Rise has been destroying my decks since 06.
Yeah. It's always been strong, but I think it's especially strong now with the release of TGT and Joust mechanic, and along with Paladin.
Dude, it's crazy. I was actually playing someone, and in the priest deck that I'm using, I use a convert card. And I'm sitting there, I'm going like into turn 5, I'm like, I should probably do this, but I think I'm going to get a Shadow Word Pain. I'll just get rid of him. I'll go ahead. I lost because of my inability to pull the trigger, like to get the convert. I went the entire game just waiting for a Shadow Word Pain. That card is ridiculous. I hate it. And then when I finally did kill it, you know what it did? Blackwing, not the Technician, the one that does the 3 damage. I'm like, F you, dude. F.
I want to hear your opinions on this, but I think, what are your thoughts on just basically it's come down to normal cards from normal, like the very base expansion of Hearthstone being your normal cards. Like I'm looking at my warrior deck right now, so Shield Slam, Execute, Fiery War Axe, Armor Smith, Cruel Taskmaster, just a lot of cards. And then all my legendaries being Lothad, Emperor, Justicar, and lots of cards which have been released afterwards.
Do you want to start
I found
with
that
Rise?
interesting.
I think it's a really good observation. There's a lot. It used to be just a couple of decks had that, where there were weird mechanics, whether it was Face Hunter or I'm thinking specifically of the Druid Mill deck, where you just use normal cards in ways that weren't expected, and it gets a little bit of a boost and some synergy from cards that came from other expansions. But to have, like you said, like the 5/5 Stranglethorn Tiger show up in a Beast deck now, it's like I think it's a real tribute to the way that expansions have worked in Hearthstone, that even after all this time, it's not like, well, we're 3 expansions in, you can just dump your base cards, so it's not really that useful anymore, because, it's been a couple years, there's a lot of cards afterward, and that just simply isn't the case. People are finding ways to pull old cards not by accident, it's by design. There's ways to pull old cards back into service and make a real impact with them. I think not only is that a lot of fun because it generates more surprises, but it also is it's both a tribute and an opportunity to be able to make a difference with your whole catalog.
And there's always going to be decks which are only like on the new cards. A really good example of this actually is mech decks. Basically just all GVG cards.
Or what's the one deck that came out right around Nax? I forget what it was. The 1/2 whenever you play Death Rattle gain something.
Yeah. That's my favorite card of all time.
Yeah, the Undertaker.
Yeah, and I mean they're going to be those examples where like something comes out and it's fucked, but it seems like in Hearthstone they fix it.
Yeah.
And
or I don't even want to say that. I think it fixes itself. They don't actually do anything.
Well, that's also they did fix that one individual card.
But that one was just broken.
Yeah, that one that needed to be fixed.
Also, same with. I mean, they've actually done that every expansion, like base and normal Hearthstone, called vanilla. But a really good example of that was 3 mana Buzzard. The Buzzard. Unleash the Hounds. Just 60 damage in one turn. and like you drew your entire deck in one card.
This is one thing though I kind of yes, I'm not even going, you guys know how I feel about Hunter, so I'm just going to pretend that none of that even floated by my ears. I think it's kudos to Blizzard in their team for the fact that like how goddamn difficult must it be to, I mean, you have to unleash new cards. Otherwise, things become stale and no one really cares. They keep unleashing these new cards, and you're like, well, if we're going to make that standard deck, our base is going to come from when the game first started. We'll sprinkle in some of the new any class cards. We'll have some of those new class-specific cards, and the legendaries probably will come from the newer expansions because as things progress, I think that's the most logical place for them to put in those new mechanics to change games. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Rise, think about how much we've talked about WoW PvP balance. This might kind of seem like a weird...
I was about to go there. I was exactly where I was about to go.
All right. Well, if you're about to go there, then you carry my thought forward. We're on the same page.
That, to watch the interplay between cards grow expansion after expansion, especially given how creative players can get with the cards that come out. In a lot of ways, it makes me think of Twinking in WoW, where people come up with bizarre ways to make things work, and... if you'll forgive me, unlike some situations in World of Warcraft, Blizzard will either, at the very least, let it go and just let the player community figure out how do we deal with the fact that we have face hunters going crazy, and the answer is people need to run more taunts, and that will shut those down. Not completely, but to some degree there, and then the meta shifts that way. Later on, all of a sudden, okay, TGT comes out, it's like, well, aggro decks are still viable, as secret pallies have shown, but all of a sudden, this joust mechanic makes life really interesting for aggro decks. You just have to take for granted that, oh, well, if I'm facing a jousting deck of any sort, I'm on the losing end of that. What does that mean for me? How do I have to adjust for that? It keeps things interesting on a multifaceted level, and it does it in such a way where I just love how it's so player-driven in that respect. We don't have to wait for a patch to come out to fix something that's broken on a regular basis. Every once in a while, you'll see an Undertaker nerf. You'll see a Leroy Jenkins nerf. You'll see something like that every once in a while. But you don't have to wait for months for something to...
That's what I really like, because it's like 30 cards. You know? You have 30 cards to form your deck.
But what do you guys think about this? Is that instead of Blizzard having to impose the nerfs or the buffs, it almost seems like the players do them themselves. There are so many different options, so many different cards, so many different ways to play the deck or the class that Blizzard is never going to be able to come up with in testing simply because they don't have enough people to do so. You need X number of people doing it and X number of case studies, and then it's like, okay, we thought Face Hunter might happen, we thought it wouldn't happen, I don't know. We probably should have saw that coming. My bad. But did we really see Freeze Mage with Doomsamer coming?
Yeah.
I don't know if they did, but that shit was legit for a little bit.
Yeah.
And there it is, right? So people will come up with bizarre stuff, and it's... Where was I going with that? It's amazing to me how Blizzard lets that continue, as in the sense that players figure out a way, and even though there's so many player complaints about it, where you'll get, I mean, Face Hunter is criticized for precisely the reason that it should be, where it's just like, okay, this is just bizarre, it's just click, point, and shoot, and you're done. And just like how hunters were over in World of Warcraft in the lower and mid brackets. I get that. But people found a way. And it wasn't even like a way in short order. It was like they found a way there. And they did the same thing with, yes, Patron Warriors are really strong. How do you figure out a way around that? And players did. Did it affect the meta? Did it make people have to account for that? Absolutely. The same reason I run Cousins in some of my decks because, well, daggone. Only 2 classes, now 3 run secrets, but boy, it's worthwhile, for me.
Rise, I have something that I just thought of. In Warcraft, you have a Blizzard-determined meta. In Hearthstone, you have a player-determined meta.
Yes, there it is. Thank you.
I think even a better way to look at this is look at how many times Blizzard has actually nerfed or changed something. Actually, what have they changed? They changed Unleash and Buzzard.
There was actually something super funny. I wish I could remember
crazy.
it. It was like the 10 most crazy cards that went live.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You just mentioned 2 of the top.
Right.
But they had like 10 or so. But
Leroy
your
Leroy
point
is only
still
broken
stands.
because of the Shadow Step Rogue thing. But that they changed that. And it wasn't even like a bad nerf. It just became not OP. So
yeah, like Miracle. They made one minor change, and it completely altered the way that deck worked. Like, just make it 1 mana more. What?
Yeah. Just stuff like that.
That's how tight, and the thing is, to me, that's how tightly interwoven all of Hearthstone is, where you screw up one card and a whole new deck can erupt out of that. As much as I talk about how you can't have just a gimmick deck, players can figure out the synergy of different things.
And another example is Undertaker. But I think that was just an oversight by Blizzard, because I think they thought for some reason that they never run they never add more death rattles to the game. that was just limiting them from adding more death rattles, so they had to change that. But that was their fault.
All right, guys, we are coming up on the hour point. What do you guys think about putting a bow on this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. It's fresh into a new season. It's fresh into a new expansion. It is an exciting time to be able to see all the experiments that are still coming down the pike.
Indeed.
And it's been a ton of fun to have things happen, like a Secret Keeper show up on the board. I'm like, what the hell is that doing there? Who would ever play a Secret Keeper on a... And the next thing you know is like you said, there's a reason for that, and I'm about to find out.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of decks like that, and there's going to be a lot of feints. A lot of people who make it look like it's going one way, but with the Hunter deck, all of a sudden, like, nope, just kidding.
I'm ready for the Feign Death Hunter. I'm ready for it.
I honestly almost...
Yes, a Feign Death Hunter. Go ahead, Yubi.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Original, put your bow.
No, I'm done.
All right, well, I guess in that case, you can find Rise at HeyRise on the Twitters. You can find Original at OH Original X